Hi everyone, welcome to my second tutorial in this series of tutorials where we're going to be going through the AQA GCSE Maths specification. Today we're going to build upon some concepts that we explored in the last tutorial, and we're going to be looking at more complex adding and subtracting of fractions, specifically those with different denominators. So let's get into it. So the first question we have is 5 over 8 plus 1 over 4. So in the previous tutorial we always did sums where the denominator of both fractions, so that's the bottom number, was the same number, and that told us what the denominator of the answer was going to be. But here we can see that we got an 8 on the bottom here and a 4 on the bottom here, so we don't actually know what the denominator is going to be. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to make the denominators of both of the numbers the same. So we got 5 over 8 plus, what can we do to 1 over 4 to make the denominator the same as it is here? Well, what we can do is we take 1 over 4 and we multiply the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. And what will that result in? That results in 5 over 8 plus 1 times 2, 2, 4 times 2, 8. So now that tells us the denominator of the answer is going to be over 8. So now we can go back to the technique we were using in the previous tutorial. So we're back with our circles again. So we can see that each circle here has 8 individual pieces. If we take the 5 from that, so we fill in 5 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we take the 2 from this number, 1, 2, what do we end up with? So we end up with the 5 from the first number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 2 from the next number, 1, 2. That gives us a total of 7 over 8. And that's the answer. So this is our second example. We've got 4 over 9 minus 1 over 3. And we've got the same problem we had before. The denominator here, i.e. the bottom number, and the denominator here are not the same. So that means we don't know what the denominator of the answer is going to be. So what can we do? We've got 4 over 9 minus 1 over 3. What can we do to 1 over 3 to give it the same denominator as 4 over 9? Well, we can times the denominator by 3, can't we? But since we multiplied the denominator by 3, we also have to multiply the numerator by 3. So that gives us 4 over 9, same as before, minus 1 times 3 on the top, 3 times 3 on the bottom. So that tells us the denominator of the answer is going to be over 9. And now we can just go back to the previous method that we were using before. So here we are again, 4 over 9 minus 1 over 3. And like we worked out in the previous slide, that's equal to 4 over 9 minus 3 over 9. And we're back with our circles again. So we've got 9 pieces. So if we select 4 of those 9 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the second circle, we select 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. What does that make our answer? So we start off with the 4 pieces and we get rid of 3 of them. So that leaves us with 1 over 9. And that's our answer there. So let's move on to our next example now. So we've got a similar problem. We've got 3 over 4 plus 2 over 7. And again, we can see that the denominator here and the denominator here are not the same. So we don't know what the denominator of the answer is going to be. So one thing you will notice about this question is, unlike the previous two, there's no number that we can multiply 7 by to get 4, and there's no number that we can multiply 4 by to get 7. Well, not a whole number anyway. So what's a way to work out this problem? Well, what we can do is we do this. If we take 3 over 4 and we multiply the bottom by 7, which means that we also have to multiply the top by 7, and we take 2 over 7 and we multiply the bottom by 4 coming from here, which means you also have to multiply the top by 4, we can see that we can make the denominators the same. So 3 times 7 is 21 over 4 times 7, which is 28, plus 2 times 4 is 8, 7 times 4 is 28. So this time, without using the circles, we can work this out. So we know the denominator is going to be over 28. and 21 plus 8 gives us 29, which from the previous tutorial we know is the same as writing 1 and 1 over 28. And just as a reminder, this is what's called a mixed number because it contains both a whole number and a fraction, and this is what's known as an improper fraction. And that's because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So here's our next example. We've got 4 over 10 minus 2 over 20. So we've got the same problem as we had before. The denominator here and the denominator here are not the same, so we need to make them the same. So we've got 4 over 10 minus, what can we do to 2 over 20 to make it the same as 4 over 10? So what we can do is we can take the top and bottom and we can divide them both by 2. So if we divide the top and bottom by 2, what do we end up with? We end up with 4 over 10 minus 1 over 10. Because 2 divided by 2 is 1, 20 divided by 2 gives us 10. And that results in an answer of 3 over 10. Because we know the denominator is going to be 10, and then it's just 4 minus 1 if you imagine the circles again. That's your answer. So here we are in our final example. We've got 3 over 6 minus 2 over 5. So much like we saw in question 3, there's no number that we can multiply 6 by or divide 6 by to give us 5, and there's no whole number that we can multiply 5 by or divide 5 by to give us 6. So what do? Well, we take 3 over 6 and we multiply the bottom by the denominator here, so we multiply that by 5, which means of course we have to multiply the top by 5, minus 2 over 5, and we just take the 6 from here and we multiply the 5 by the 6, so we multiply the denominator by 6, and we multiply the top by 6. What does that result in? Well, it results in 3 times 5 is 15 over 30 minus 2 times 6, which is 12, over 5 times 6, which is 30. So you can see that we've got the same denominator here. So now the equation becomes a lot simpler. So now we know the answer is definitely over 30, and we do 15 minus 12, which gives us 3 over 30. And if you go back and look at the previous tutorial, we can see that this can be simplified down. So it can be simplified down to 1 over 10. And the way we simplify that down is we recognize that 3 and 30 both share the factor 3. So if we do 3 divided by 3 and 30 divided by 3, that will give us 1 over 10. So that's going to do for today, guys. We went through adding and subtracting more complicated fractions where the denominators are different. Next week we're going to be going through multiplying and dividing fractions. So subscribe to see that.